Turn on any news program or read any newspaper and you're likely to hear calls for increasing the U.S. minimum wage. However, before we ask the question, should the U.S. increase minimum wage, we first must ask two other very important questions. First, why do people want an increase in the minimum wage? Second, what is the purpose for minimum wage? The answer to the why and what questions are why is living comfortably and the what is reducing poverty. The effect on poverty is not as obvious as the proponents would have us believe. For them, the argument is best summed up by Jeanette Wicks Lim in her paper, The Working Poor, a Booming Demographic, where she says a restaurant could cover a 20% wage hike by raising prices 1 to 2%, taking a $40 bill to $40.80. This, however, only takes into account the cost for the rising wage of the company's employees. It does not take into account the rise in cost for other materials used by the company. We will use Larry De Pew's experience managing a fast food restaurant as an example. He said, labor costs were not my only overhead. I also had cleaning supplies, advertising costs, the food itself, utilities, taxes, and a host of other expenses. When the minimum wage went up, I was not the only person required to raise wages. Many of the companies I dealt with were union companies, and built into their contracts was a standard tie to the minimum wage. If the minimum wage goes up, so does the union employee's wage. This then required my suppliers to raise their prices as well. I also received my product by truck, which caused an increase in my profits. And if I could not make a profit, I could not stay in business, and my employees would be out of work. While we see the actual minimum wage has outpaced inflation, the effect of the level of poverty has been minimal. Here we have a graph that shows the effects of minimum wage in the past. While we see the actual minimum wage has increased, the real economic benefit to families has been nullified because of inflation. In 2007, the poverty rate for families was 9.8 with a federal minimum wage of $5.15 per hour. In 2012, the poverty rate was 11.8 with a federal minimum wage of $7.25. According to a survey conducted by Duke University and CFO Magazine, many of America's chief financial officers are worried that President Barack Obama's proposed wage hike from $7.25 an hour to $10 an hour would have negative impacts on many job industries. Those surveyed are forecasting severe job losses in the retail and service industries as well as the manufacturing industry. Additionally, they are predicting great stalls in hiring, mass layoffs, and job losses due to attrition if the proposed wage increase passes and is enforced. The argument is that only those that are able to retain their jobs will benefit from the hike, while many more will either lose their jobs or experience a loss of employment hours. Additionally, fewer employers will be able to bear the sudden hike and will not be able to recruit new hires, creating fewer jobs overall. Thus, we see it won't always be rainbows and sunshine. More than half the people that work for minimum wage are under the age of 25 and trying to get through college, most of which do not have the skills or experience to offer a company. It makes sense to have people with minimal skills working for minimum wage. Dustin Morris remembers a time in 1997 while he was still in high school working for minimum wage. I think I made a little more than $5 an hour. At the ripe old age of 16, I got a $2 an hour raise in my pay. This was due to a mandate that pushed the minimum wage to the set amount. I was ecstatic, living at home with virtually no bills whatsoever. This was an extraordinary experience. I can remember thinking I'd hit the jackpot. But the question must be asked, what did I do to get a raise? Did I develop a new skill or invent a new product to improve efficiency? I got a raise for doing nothing. I did not have to work any harder, and there were no new expectations of me. I simply got a raise because the law dictated it. The concept of receiving more reward with no corresponding contribution violates basic economic law and the principles of capitalism. My point being that often the outcome of the dilemma affects far more people in categories that perhaps decisions like this should. How many people are going to lose their jobs to young high school kids, or how many young people are not going to be able to get their first jobs because the employers can't afford to hire them? So to answer the question, what happened the last time, lots of people that perhaps shouldn't have received raises did. If the why is living comfortably and the what is reducing poverty, then how can we achieve this without harming the very people we are trying to help? One effective solution to balance the cost of living and decrease the poverty level would include increasing the skill sets of minimum wage workers through vocational training programs like micro works, thus qualifying the workers to produce more valuable work and earn higher incomes. To quote Benjamin Franklin, I am for doing good to the poor, but I think the best way of doing good to the poor is not making them easy in poverty, but leading them or driving them out of it. I observed that the more public provisions were made for the poor, the less they provided for themselves, and of course, the poorer they became. On the contrary, the less was done for them, the more they did for themselves, and became richer. End quote. For many, this will not be a desirable solution because they simply do not have the motivation to move out of poverty. However, for others, this will be the very incentive they need to improve themselves. President Dieter F. Uchtdorf touches on this idea in his talk, The Best Time to Plant a Tree, when he says, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is now. To show this, it is best to contrast two people who dropped out of high school in the 9th grade. The first is 28-year-old Carmen Iverson, a single mother of 4 employed in the fast food industry. She works part-time, and this is the first job she's had for more than a few months. She rents a home that costs more in 1 month than she makes, and has spent most of her life moving between relatives and shelters. The second is Max Hamilton, father-in-law of Larry De Pew. After dropping out of school, Max learned a trade and accepted low-wage jobs in order to get his foot in the door and learn every aspect of that trade. As he learned, he moved up in the companies until he was able to start his own construction company. The key here is personal motivation. Should the U.S. increase the minimum wage? The evidence we found suggests not. We have come to the conclusion that the community offers opportunities, and whether an individual takes advantage of those opportunities is up to them.